the uncomfortable truths about leadership. So if you're, regardless of where you are, whether you are a first line manager or you're in your first leadership roles, or whether you are sitting, at the top of an organisational tree, you're sitting there as, chief exec level, or, one of the chief officer teams. One of the key things that I think we really need to recognise is that leadership is not glamorous, but equally it's not necessarily for the faint-hearted either. So when we're talking about understanding that distinction, let's get very, very clear. And I think really, really simply what we're talking about when we're talking about management, we're talking about systems, we're talking about process, we're talking about planning, we're talking about organisation, yes? So how the organisation performs. When we are talking about leadership, I want you to start to think more about the people aspect, and also importantly, think about change. Because one of the key things in terms of your personal brand and success as a leader is about understanding that people and change are at the heart of what leadership is talking about. The world around us is constantly changing, and therefore leadership behaviours are constantly changing. So as alumni, of course, when I finished doing my master's at Westminster, all of the theory that I took and I put in place, I've had to continue to evolve some of that thinking, evolve some of those models, evolve my approach. I'm not still doing exactly the same things that I did in the late 90s, or I thought that was absolutely gold then. You have to keep evolving. What got you here isn't necessarily going to get you to where you need to be going forward in terms of the future. It sounds simple, but it's not necessarily easy, because as leaders, we can't afford to spend time just in our comfort zone, and we can't afford to just spend time if we are past centric. So we have to be able to move across those time zones, past, present, future. Okay. So what are some of the things that we can do to enable us to make better decisions? There's always the ability to what I call role model. There are people around us that are really good decision makers. Observe them. What is it that they do? And take some of that behaviour and model it, role play it for ourselves. And if it starts to deliver benefits for us, then we continue to use that. So it's just about starting to ask ourselves a different set of questions. I think in our tool bag as successful leaders, our ability to ask good questions. They don't have to be perfectly worded, by the way, but they have to come with a particular intent. So to ask more questions will enable you to make better decisions. As a leader, regardless, absolutely regardless of where we are sitting in the hierarchy of our organisations, one of the key things is that the quality of your relationships make a difference. We're delivering a lot of our results through other people. And you can be a fabulous communicator. You can be brilliant at setting the vision. You can have oodles of integrity, for example. But if people don't believe you, or if they don't believe in what they're doing, things are likely to be bumpy for you. They're likely to fail. So the key thing is, when we are delivering results through people, we've got to build effective relationships, and highly successful leaders are good with their relationships. Like I say, we're not talking about having to be everybody's best friend. Far from it. Far from it. As leaders, as I say, one of the things is we have got to get comfortable with change. We have to be role models of change. We have to be early adopters of change, because people will only go as far as we go. If you don't adapt, you don't learn, you don't change, then you're going to go the way of the dinosaur, because the world we are living in, as we're just starting to talk about, is continually evolving and changing and moving. And therefore, we have got to keep up to date. No two ways about that. So it's very easy to say, right, yes, we need to be continuous learners. But what does that mean? And one of the beautiful things is about, particularly this time, is that it's a recognition that it's not just formal learning. It's the informal that is as important as the formal learning. So we need to make sure throughout our lives, to be honest, not just our working lives, that we continue to be learners. One of the key things is we have got to build our resilience. And again, as I said, a key tool in our tool bag is our ability to ask questions. So when criticism is coming, when we're feeling as though we're under attack, it's not about responding and going into defense. It is the getting some, perspective and ask some questions. Seek to understand. Oh, this is really, really important. Okay, so number one is do not listen to anybody that is telling you you can't do it. Again, beware of your imposter syndrome. Kill your imposter syndrome. Kill it dead. So my advice to young women is, what have you got to lose? Go for it. What's the worst thing? I've always carried a mantra, all right? And so I encourage people to create a mantra for them. In my early days, I'd go, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? They can't legally beat me, they can't make me pregnant, so hey, what's the worst? And now I just do well, if not now, then when, Sue? So it's just checking into some of that internal narrative that goes on. So if you're a young person, guess what? What's the worst thing that could happen? Somebody could turn around and say no, or you have an experience and things don't go perfectly well. As long as it comes back to the point we were just making, is learn from it, mine the experience, and therefore when it comes around again, you're taking that learning consciously into that next situation. But yeah, you know what, young people, this is your time. This is your time. It's really important to do the listening, but we deliver our results through people. We're under scrutiny, and if the decision fundamentally is ours to make, it's important that we listen, we synthesize, and we make the best decision based on the evidence that we have in front of us. If it is a collegiate decision, it's incumbent on us to make sure that all the opinions are made and that we make the right decision based on the problem that we are trying to solve, not in terms of personal agendas. But right at the heart of that is listening. That's the core. Highly successful leaders, they listen. They listen.